Okay, so no members of the public, so we could go straight into the agenda. Item 1, minutes. Can the committee please confirm minutes of the meeting held on the 11th September 2019? Agreed. Shall I sign those?
Yes.
Okay. Amy, any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chairman. None received.
Any declarations of interest, members?
Councillor
Seaborn.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for the record, I'm a member of the Bramley Parish Council Planning Committee, which submitted objections to the application covered by agenda item 7.2, following a discussion on the 25th of June. However, I was not present at that meeting, so I haven't predetermined what I will be saying this evening. Thank you.
Anybody else? No. Oh, I should have. Sorry, I should have. Under new protocol, I'm going to ask the officers each time to introduce themselves so people online and members of the public know who's sitting in the middle. So could officers please just say who's here, please? For the record, to speak.
Lewis Jones, Planning Solicitor.
Beth Howland-Smith, Development Manager.
Alex Ingalls, Planning Officer.
Catherine Pearson, the Area Team Leader.
Thank you, Chairman.
And Chris Berry, Interim Head of Planning.
Amy, are there any questions from members of the public?
Thank you, Chairman. None received.
Any questions from members?
Also none received, Chairman.
Beth, do you want to give any updates on government guidance or legislation since the last meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Yes, you may be aware that the MPPG was updated on the 1st of October, mainly in respect of the chapter on design, which has now been entitled Design, Process and Tools. Within that, it introduces the new National Design Guide, which is to be read in conjunction with the MPPG. And this rather nice 70-page document introduces 10 characteristics that contribute to good quality design. And basically, this and the update really just reaffirms the position we already take in securing high quality design. It is included within the update this evening, and I would recommend that you take some time to have a read through of it and digest it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, item 7, applications for planning permission. The first point is that if we do have a need to go on a site inspection after this meeting, that inspection will be on the 12th of November. Right, moving on then to the only item on the agenda. So item B1, Darien Links Road, Bramley, erection of extensions and alterations, erection of a detached garage. Alex, would you please introduce the item?
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. So this application is for the erection of an extension and alterations, and also the erection of a detached garage at Darien Links Road in Bramley. This is the location plan. This shows the site lying to the north of Links Road. These are some site photographs to provide some context of the existing situation of the site. This is the application property Darien, and this is the neighbouring property here. And this is as seen from the rear elevation with the location for the proposed extension. These are the existing elevations of Darien. This is the front and the rear. These are the side elevations as existing, and floor plans as existing. These are the proposed elevations of the front and the rear of Darien. The extension is shown here, and also this part here. The side extension would measure 8 metres in depth by 4.55 metres wide, and the single-storey rear extension would be 1.3 metres in depth with a width of 4.05 metres, featuring a flat roof. this slide shows the proposed elevations to include the garage when viewed from the street scene. And the side profile and the front elevation of the garage. So the garage would be 5.3 metres to the ridge and 7.85 metres in width or depth when viewed from the street scene. This is the proposed floor plan, block plan for the site, with the proposed garage at the front of the site, and the proposed side extension and the rear extension here. Just for some clarification, this bubble here was added by the agent in between the two, the previous application, which was, well, sorry, not the previous application, early revision of this application. There was a proposed link in here which has been subsequently removed, and that was just drawing my attention to that. So that's just to explain what that means. And now some illustrative plans. These are both viewed from Links Road. And now for some context. So officers, as you would find in the report, found that the proposed garage element of the scheme to be inappropriate greenbelt development by definition. However, the location of the site within the settlement area and also the presence of multiple other garages along Links Road, which are shown, their sites are shown within the red outlines here. This is seen to represent very special circumstances. So due to the number of other examples of garages which are forward of the front elevation, and I've got some photos to follow, it's considered that it would be unreasonable to refuse on this basis, and there would also be no resultant increase in on-street parking as a result. And so therefore it's considered that that would be a very special circumstances would exist. And so this is, go through some of the examples. This is downside, which is immediately opposite the application site. So this is the presence of another garage here. This is the garden house, 2 properties down from Darien, just here. This is Longreach and Farthings, slightly further down Links Road, more towards the entrance to Links Road. And this is Croft Point and the Owl's Nest, which is again further down Links Road. And finally, Fairway, which again is at the entrance to Links Road, where there is also 2 garages, 1 garage and a 2-bay carport forward of the front elevation of the house. So these matters are for determination by the members this evening, and as set out within the officer's report, a recommendation is for approval. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Councillor Howard, sorry to... Technically, I should rule you out from voting here because you've missed most of the introduction. Do you think we should let her off this time, or is it...
Apologies, I was on a train from London.
Okay, I'll... Yeah, actually, yes, as at any one item, it'd be but wasted. Could you, Alex, just run back through the slides quickly just to give Chris, Councillor Howard, the right the information?
Apologies, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Howard will run quickly through it. I won't give you the whole lot again. So I'll show you the floor plan block plan. So this application is for the erection of a proposed garage at the front of the site here, and the proposed side extension, single-storey side extension, and this rear extension element here. And so these are some illustrative plans. I've got the garage at the front, you've seen that, cool. And then there's the extension at the side there, and a bit to the rear as well. And you may have caught this, but this was just some other examples of similar garages which are forward of the front elevation. You got that? Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Chairman, and then I'll go back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Members, this is called in by one of the local members. Was it? I don't know, was it Councillor Seaborn? Okay. Do you want to give us your views on it, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I asked for this item to come to committee because of the number of objections expressed by neighbours and by the parish council, principally to the proposed new garage, detached garage at the front of the property. Although individual letters of objection mention other aspects of the proposal, the common thread is the impact of the proposed garage on the street scene and its intrusion on neighbouring properties. I take no significant issue with the house extension proposals, and as far as I'm concerned, I think we should be focusing our attention solely on the garage. I'm quite happy to support the officer's recommendation for the remainder. The owners carried out significant modifications to the property in 2014, including the conversion of the existing garage into habitable accommodation. The officer's report for that application made the following statement. The conversion of the garage into habitable accommodation results in the property having no garage provision. It is further appreciated that there would be no opportunities for additional provision at the front of the site. So why was that statement included? Well, the report in front of us notes that the garage is an issue to be considered, and it points out that the proposals are contrary to Waverley's residential extensions supplementary planning document. It then goes on to try and make the case, as Alex has done to us already, to overcome this contravention with an inaccurate statement, which I'll highlight in a moment. So sections 9.9 and 9.13 of the SPD address double and single-storey extensions at the front of a property, and both state clearly that consideration should also be given to the surrounding street scene and the existing established building line and the impact that the proposal may have. And then section 9.22 of the SPD covers garages and carports, and it states quite clearly, and I quote, "Building in the front garden should be avoided as it could appear unduly prominent at the expense of the character and setting of the house and the street scene." So what is in front of us is clearly a contravention of the SPD by being entirely in front of the existing building line and being unduly prominent at the expense of the character and setting of the house and the street scene. The report then tries to make the case for not adhering to the SPD through the paragraph at the top of page 15 in our papers. I find the way that it's worded to be misleading. It's absolutely true that there are multiple other garages in Links Road that are of substantial size, but there's an implication that there are multiple other garages built in front of the building line, and I don't find that to be simply correct, not correct. There are 31 houses in Links Road. Alex showed us, he highlighted 6. I would argue that one of the garages in those, whilst being detached, isn't substantially in front of the building line. Of the remainder, 3 of the garages were constructed before the supplementary planning document was in place. So the guidance that we now have didn't apply to those 3. And of the remaining 2, one is actually very well screened, the opportunity for which doesn't occur in this particular instance. And the other one, which was approved in 2014, for some reasons officers chose not to discuss the implications of the garage in being in front of the building line with any reference to the SPD in the report on that. So in other words, it's there, but it wasn't considered at the time. So it's not a question of it being approved, it's sort of approved by omission rather than by proper consideration. So none of those garages that have been highlighted is as prominent as this new garage would be, being right at the front of the property and well detached from the house. And I'd also ask if officers have carried out the 45-degree test for the new garage in relation to the neighbouring property to the north. It may just pass, but if it does, it's very, very close, very marginal. So Save Policy D4 addresses design and layout. I would argue that
Councillor Seaborn, you've had 4 minutes. Can you try and bring your comments to conclusion?
Right, okay. So the principal planning reason, I would argue, other than the SPD, is a breach of Save Policy D4. So because of D4 and breaches of D4 and contravention of the SPD, I find myself totally unable to support this particular application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any councillor wish to speak on this one? Councillor Townsend.
I just want to ask officers one question. Attached to the application, it says there's a preliminary roost assessment, phase 2 bat report and mitigation. I couldn't actually find it in the lodged against the application unless it's been called something which I couldn't find. So I just wanted to, whilst I was sitting here, just look at the mitigation, if at all possible, if you could just point me in the direction of it, please. Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a moment. Any other comments?
Thank you, Chair. I found the points made by Councillor Seaborn very powerful, so that probably has changed my mind a little bit, having read the papers. I suppose that's a good thing about having a debate. The question I wanted to ask is, this is Green Belt, it talks about very special circumstances, and having read the report, I can't see any very special circumstances that have been put forward. So I'm still trying to work out what are those very special circumstances, especially if the others that have just been mentioned by my colleague, have those gone through that test to see whether there was very special circumstances for those, or have they happened by default, which appears what's happened. So by saying others have been built that haven't gone through the same test doesn't prove anything for me. So I just want some reassurance what these very special circumstances are to convince me about being on Greenbelt. Thank you.
Presumably, Alex, the term very special is from the legislation why it's been used. So, but perhaps if you can answer the point.
Thank you, Chairman, if I may interject at this point. The very special circumstances the officers consider apply in this case are set out in paragraph 10.6 of your papers. I would draw members' attention to the fact that this is within the rural settlement boundary, where some limited development is more acceptable. Members must ask themselves not only whether they consider the application to be harmful in principle in Greenbelt terms, but whether there is any impact on the openness of the Greenbelt, which is a key test for Greenbelt. Generally speaking, in Waverley, we take the approach that it is reasonable for a householder to have some garaging provision, and members are also reminded that whilst there is strictly no precedence, there is certainly some other examples in the street scene which develop a particular character, whereby it is characteristic in the street scene that there are examples of garages in this location. So those are the very special circumstances that officers consider apply. Obviously it is for members to decide whether they agree with that or not. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Goodrich, right.
Thank you, Chairman. Just talking about the screening, it seems to me that looking at the photographs, and I have driven past, and also the plans show quite good screening between this house and the property on its left as looking from the road, and also there seems to be good screening to the highway. The one thing I'm slightly confused about is some sort of artistic scribbles. If one looks at page 11, are we looking at a tree between the proposed garage and the house? I don't remember seeing one. What is that squiggle? And the illustrative plan below it, where we've got another cloud sort of moving across on the screen. And in fact, all the photographs on page 10 and 11 show this sort of funny old sort of clouds appearing on the plan, which I don't understand. And I would be grateful if someone could explain it to me.
Chairman, I'm quite happy to explain. Alex did explain that cloud was there to signify the fact there was previously a link between the house and the back of the garage, which has been omitted. So the architect or agent or whoever has put a squiggle to show that it's no longer there.
Councillor Gray.
Officers have said that they believe that in Waverley there's a right to have a garage, and I think that That's something I can understand. But if the owner actually relinquishes that right, as he did in the previous application, to build the garage, then I can't necessarily see that subsequently that this should be a factor in this application. I'm listening to my colleagues, and at the moment I'm not minded to go with the officer's recommendation, but I will listen to the rest of the conversation.
As I understand it, each planning application has to be judged separately. There was no right was relinquished. I mean, a garage was converted, but I mean, officers might comment, but we have to. I mean, I don't think we can. That's not a planning reason. We have to judge it on the basis of what we have seen in front of us now in the current situation. I believe. I think that's my understanding. If I can make a comment, I mean, it's clear that there have been garages built, as Councillor Seaborn mentioned, and they may or may not have been appropriately used the guidelines in place, but they did happen. And any inspector is going to look at this and say that the authority did grant permission for a similar garage in a similar location quite recently. So I think we'll be careful about thinking we have taking a decision here that won't stick. But if it were to go to appeal, but yeah, that's up for members to decide. Is anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one observation. The garage, the proposed garage, is much more forward on the property than any other properties in the street. So it is quite unusual.
Anybody else want to speak? In which case, Councillor Townsend, do you want to speak again?
I just wanted an answer from the officers, please. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, thank you, Chairman. Sorry, yes, we were having a look. The document which you were after, unfortunately, wasn't available on the website. It hasn't been published. It came in late. That's why this item didn't go to a previous committee. That document was forwarded straight onto the Surrey Wildlife Trust, who have commented on that. Which their response is visible online, which references that report, but unfortunately the actual document itself is not at the moment. Thank you, Chairman.
Doesn't sound like any of the speakers. No? Okay, in which case we can move to the recommendation. So the recommendation is that subject to conditions 1 to 9 and informatives 1 to 4, permission be granted. All those in favour, please show.
It's 5, Chairman.
All those against, please show.
That's 7, Chairman.
Oh,
I think there should be 1 abstention.
Oh, any abstentions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so that's not been passed. So there's want to propose a motion to refuse, please. Councillor Seaborn, any seconder? Okay. Okay. Councillor Seaborn, do you want to recommend some reasons for refusal, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, I think the items that I recited from the supplementary planning document should have weight, particularly 9.22, which states that building in the front garden should be avoided. And then reference to saved policy D4, which addresses development to be of a high quality, which integrates well with the site and complements its surroundings. So there are several aspects to that, and I would argue that this is not appropriate in terms of scale, height, form and appearance being so far forward. Policy D4 requires us to not significantly harm the amenities of occupiers of neighbouring properties by way of overlooking, loss of daylight or sunlight, overbearing appearance or other environmental impacts. And aspect E of Safe Policy D4 says development should protect or enhance the appearance of the street scene and of attractive features such as landmark buildings, important vistas and open spaces. Well, maybe the detail at the end doesn't apply, but this is not protecting or enhancing the appearance of the street scene. So I would argue.
Okay, that's quite. Can you summarise that? Okay, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, officers didn't answer the aspect of the 45-degree test either, whether that had actually been carried out or not.
The advice here is it's not relevant, but perhaps the officers can comment.
Looking at the block plan there, I'm afraid I don't have a protractor to hand, but given that there is separation of probably in excess of 3-4 metres, given there's a garage at the neighbouring property, I think it's unlikely you're going to find yourself breaching the 45-degree rule.
Well, Chairman, I actually took the trouble to go through this exercise, but not with detailed plans, and it's perilously close to failing. The building has to be more than 12 metres away, I think.
One moment, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's just stick to reasons for refusal, I think. Okay. Officer, have any comments on the reasons that Councillor Seaborn gave, apart from that one?
Yes, I've listened to your comments, Councillor Seaborn. I would suggest the following wording. The proposal, by reason of the size, height, scale and prominent position of the proposed garage, would result in harm to the character and appearance of the street scene, contrary to policies D1 and D4 of the Local Plan 2002, policy TD1 of Part 1 of the 2018 Local Plan, and the Residential Extensions SPD. Technically, you are in the green belt. If you find any other harm, you should also have a green belt reason for refusal. We can suggest some wording for that if you're happy to delegate that to officers.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So you've heard the reasons for refusal. So all those in favour of refusal, please show.
It's 8, Chairman.
Sorry, that was
8.
Oh, sorry. And those against?
It's 5, Chairman.
Any abstentions? Thank you very much. And I think that completes the business. So thank you very much.
Short and sweet.